Hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing great today. It's another study video. I love this so much and I hope that you like them too because I have so much fun making these. I just love studying and sharing my notes, and I know that I've got a couple very nice messages about them, so first of all, thank you so much. I am so glad that you are enjoying it as well. For this time, I decided to go back to Da Vinci, like I said last video, because there is so much about that man that it was not enough to do just one video about him. So last time I talked a little bit about like an overall of everything about him, and I mentioned my favorite painting by him, which is The Lady and the Ermine, and a little bit about how he went about his science studies and his sketches, his paintings, all of that. But this time I wanted to go a little bit deeper into two different pieces of work that he's made that I particularly find really interesting, not only because of the work itself, but also the things that surrounded them. So yeah, let's go and study. This time I am going to be doing my notes again. I'm gonna try to keep them like here visible so it doesn't look like I'm just looking down, but I have my notes. And I literally went to a cute little coffee shop yesterday and just did some studying, a couple pages for each painting. Like, I've been really into this. I'm enjoying it so much. I went and did some studying for the Salvator Mundi and the Vitruvian Man. Yeah, so one is a painting, one is a sketch. Again, I had so many to choose from. It was so hard. So I just went for some of the really popular ones because even though they are very known, I personally don't really know a lot about the backstory aside from like what's obvious. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. I am so glad that I picked these two. So first we're gonna start with the painting. We're gonna start with the Salvator Mundi, which was painted circa the 1500s. I think this one is such a crazy story because this painting was just recently discovered. So something interesting about it is that it was found on a little auction in the United States. I think it was sold for like $45. Like, imagine that. Because nobody knew it was an original, a Da Vinci original. It had been painted over so many times that it was believed that it was either a study or something from workshops. It was like nobody thought it was actually his. After all that extra painting on top of it was removed, it was uncovered that it was indeed Da Vinci's painting. And it was uncovered publicly in 2011 at the National Gallery in London. So imagine that, 2011 is when the world first saw the Salvator Mundi for the first time. It's been more than 100 years since the last Da Vinci painting was found. And now we have a new one. Like, that is absolutely insane. And then it was found just like on a small auction, like it was just being sold like anything. Insane. Some things are known about this painting's history. One of them is that it was known for certain that it belonged to King Charles. And this was recorded, there's an inventory of the royal collection. And this was around the 1600s to 1649. But after his execution, it disappeared. So from 1763 to the 1900s, nobody knew where it was. By that time, it was already being repainted, it was already being edited over it. So it took them a while to actually find enough evidence that it was his. And a lot of people were involved in this process because they tried to get as many Da Vinci experts in the matter since it's been so long that one of his paintings was discovered, it wasn't something to be taken lightly, like, oh yeah, sure, this is a Da Vinci painting. It took a lot of time and a lot of people. Through the process of conserving this painting and removing the extra layers and all of that, there was a lot of discoveries that were made. Something that I find so fascinating about old paintings, classics, it's that you can see through the layers all the changes that were done in this painting. And a lot of people, you know, there's always gonna be some theories as to meanings of things, stuff like that. These changes were minor, but it was still interesting nonetheless. Like the shifting positions of the hands, the orb, it was on the other hand, and we was holding it on the other hand. Some key details about this painting is that in it, he represents Christ in the way that is talked about on John 4:14, where he's said to be the savior of the world. And that is why he's holding this orb on his hand, because that represents the world and how he is holding it. But it's interesting that he did something that was unusual at the time, and is that he painted Christ as a human without a crown or a halo behind him. So just like little fun things about the painting that I found to be interesting. But this is such a beautiful work, and I am fascinated by portraits in general. Da Vinci's portraits are always gonna be at another level, so of course I had to pick another of his portraits today to talk about, and a fun little backstory. So now we're gonna go to one of his most famous, I should say actually his most famous sketch, and it is the Vitruvian Man. This one is probably one of the most iconic symbolisms in art ever. Maybe not symbolism, but one of the most iconic pieces of art ever. Like, I think every single person ever has seen this sketch, and I think it's so fun, like the whole story behind it, because even though it's kind of obvious it's supposed to represent proportions of the human body, it's just so cool to see the way that he worked his science and art combined. So first of all, obviously, he combined geometry and math here because, of course, it's Da Vinci. And that is why he got these perfect proportions of what he believes to be the perfect proportions for a person. But he wasn't the only one that believed this way. It was believed at the time that the proportions of a human were pretty much the same for everybody, like there was an average, and that is why they used units of measurements that were body parts, like the cubit, which was from the elbow to the tip of the finger, or the foot, which we still use today. It's because it was believed there was always like a standard proportions for people. But also it was very important in art history in general because it became a reference for a lot of art at the time. Like this became a reference sheet. Also, there's some symbolism in it because as you see, there's a circle around the man, but the way that he's standing, it's like a square within that circle. And it's believed that it represents both femininity as a circle and masculinity as a square. But there was also another meaning for Da Vinci when he worked on this. So to him, in a similar way as humans were God's creation, he applied this rule to buildings being man's creation. So this is how he tried to make everything just be part of the same thing. These same rules that he would apply to the human body proportions on his sketch are the same logical, mathematical, and medical, there's actually the word medical in it, the precision that you would use when making a building. And I love this quote so much. It says, he believed the workings of the human body to be an analogy for the workings of the universe. His Vitruvian Man was a cosmography of the microcosm. I love that. I love that. We are a universe. And that actually is the inspiration for a painting that I'm working on this week. I will be showing you next week the video where I work on it. The full one will be on Patreon. But yeah, I am so glad that you joined me today to study a little bit about artists. This one was a little bit shorter because, like I said, I had already went a little deeper into Da Vinci. These were just some extra things that I didn't fit into the other video and I really wanted to talk about because I found personally really inspiring. So yeah, I am glad you were here. I hope you enjoyed, and next week we're gonna go to a new artist and we're gonna go a little bit deeper. I will be back to making it a little longer and a little more information into it. But yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye!